Hi there, Daily Gardeners. Just really quick before today's show, I wanted to let you know that I will be the keynote speaker at the Friends of the State Botanical Garden of Georgia. It's their annual meeting in Athens, Georgia on March 25th at 7 p.m. Now, I'm going to be giving a presentation on some of the women who have influenced botanical illustration and botanical porcelain. Now, if you have been to the garden recently, you've probably noticed a few additions. One of those is the brand new Porcelain and Decorative Arts Museum at the Center for Art and Nature right next to the Visitor Center. One of the reasons that this almost 9,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility is so special is that it's the first of its kind to integrate decorative arts in a garden setting to celebrate nature. Now, if you're interested in going, please check today's show notes. There'll be a link there. You can also see it in the Daily Gardener community over in Facebook, so you can see it in the Facebook group. And I'll also put a link to it in the newsletter that comes out on Friday. So I'll be putting links all over the place. And please, by all means, feel free to email me and let me know if you do decide to attend, because I think it would be really fun to have some Daily Gardeners in the audience. And I know I'm going to have a little bit of free time, so it would be cool to get the chance to connect with you. Maybe we can tour the gardens together or grab a coffee. Now, before I forget, I have to let you know that there is a reception before the presentation. That starts at 6:30. Presentation starts at 7. And again, this is on March 25th at the State Botanical Garden of Georgia in Athens. Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about garden history and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is March 1st. Today in garden history, we celebrate the birthday of Catharina Dörrien. She's a German botanist, writer, and artist who was born on this day, March 1st, in 1717. After the death of her parents, Catharina became a governess for the Ehret family in Dillenburg. Sophie Ehret was a childhood friend of Catharina's, and her husband Anton was an attorney, and they became Catharina's second family. While teaching the Ehret children, Catharina turned to nature to teach almost every single subject. Catharina even wrote her own textbooks for the kids. They were heavily focused on botany and the natural world. As the Ehret children grew, Catharina focused on her own botanical work. Anton helped her gain membership to the Botanical Society of Florence, something unheard of for women of her time. And Catharina would go on to become a member of the Berlin Society of Friends of Nature Research and the Regensburg Botanical Society in Germany. When Catharina was alive, Dillenburg was part of the Orange-Nassau Principality, and so Catharina wrote a 496-page flora called The Flora for Orange-Nassau, and it was published in 1777. Catharina not only used the Linnaean system to organize and name each specimen, but she also named two little lichens, Major Dörrieni and Minor Dörrieni, and this was an extraordinary accomplishment for a woman during the 1700s. As for her botanical illustrations, Catharina did all of those herself. She created over 1,400 illustrations of local flora and fauna. Yet these masterpieces never made it into her flora. Instead, Catharina's botanical art became an heirloom that was passed down through the generations of the Ehret family. In 1875, A few pieces of Catharina's work were shown at an exhibition, but just 15 years later, a large collection of paintings by Johann Philipp Sandberger was bought by the Museum of Wiesbaden. Johann was a dear friend of Anton Ehret's, and today his work is considered to be copies of Catharina's original watercolor masterpieces. Still, Sandberger's work is important. Those pieces are precious because they give us the only glimpse of Catharina's breadth and depth of talent. Without Sandberger, all would be lost because the bulk of Catharine's work has been lost to time. The curator, Friedrich von Heinbeck, once said that the precision of Catharina's brushstrokes was like that of an embroiderer who stitched with only the finest thread. And today is the birthday of Augustus Saint-Gaudens. He was born on this day in 1848, and he was an American sculptor of the Beaux Arts generation. Augustus is remembered for his stunning Civil War monuments, including a work called Abraham Lincoln, the Man. In Augustus Saint-Gaudens' biography called Reminiscences, he wrote, "What garlic is to salad, insanity is to art." The Frick Museum has a medallion that was carved by Augustus. He was a fan of Robert Louis Stevenson, and the two actually got the chance to meet toward the end of Stevenson's life. The medallion has an inscription on it. It's Stevenson's poem called The Underwoods, which he wrote in 1887. And the medallion reads, "Youth now flees on feathered foot. Faint and fainter sounds the flute. Where hath fleeting beauty led? To the doorway of the dead. Life is over. Life was gay. We have come the primrose way." And today is the birthday of Lenore Elizabeth Mulets, who was born on this day, March 1st in 1877. Lenore was a children's author, a poet, and a teacher. She was also born Nora Mulets in Kansas. Lenore's mother died when she was 10, and so she was raised by her uncle. When she became an adult, in addition to being a teacher, Lenore was a marvelous children's author, and her books were always charming, and her titles included Stories of Birds, Flower Stories, Insect Stories, and Tree Stories, just to name a few. In the preface to Flower Stories, Lenore wrote, "When the flowers of the field and garden lift their bright faces to you, can you call them by name and greet them as old acquaintances? Or having passed them 100 times, are they still strangers to you?" And in her book, Stories of Birds, Lenore wrote, "Such a twittering and fluttering there was when this news came." And I always think of Twitter when I read that. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Stylish Succulent Designs by Jessica Kane. This book came out in 2019, and the subtitle is And Other Botanical Crafts. Jessica wants to teach you how to elevate your succulent creations and learn the tricks you need to know to create professional quality succulent arrangements made simple. Jessica is the creator and owner of In Succulent Love. She's a native of San Diego, which happens to be the succulent capital of the world. And Jessica fell in love with making succulent arrangements after working with succulents with her grandmother. Jessica's DIY guide teaches how to make over 40 creative projects using many varieties of succulents, air plants, and other easy care botanicals. This book is 176 pages of creating beautiful and lush succulent designs that are simple to make and will last for months. You can get a copy of Stylish Succulent Designs by Jessica Kane and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for just $2. I couldn't believe that when I saw that price, but there aren't that many used copies going for $2. So if you really want one, you're going to have to act quickly. All right, today we end the show with a botanic spark that features Catherine White. It was on this day, back in 1956, that The New Yorker published gardener and garden writer Catherine White's Review of a Garden Catalog. Now, this was a very special event because it was the first time that a garden catalog received a published review, and it was an immediate hit. Readers wrote in to request the name of the author since Catherine had signed off with only her initials, KSW. Catherine was married to E.B. White, the author of Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little. But the garden writer Elizabeth Lawrence figured out that KSW was Catherine, and she sent her a letter a month later. The two women would exchange correspondence about gardening for the rest of their lives. Here's an excerpt from that very first letter from Elizabeth. I asked Mrs. Lamb if you were Mrs. E.B. White, and she said you were. So please tell Mr. E.B. that he has 3 generations of devoted readers in this family. Have you the charming Barnhaven catalogs out of Gresham, Oregon? You should, even if you don't want rare primroses. And do you know Harry E. Sayer, Diamonddale, Michigan? I subscribe to his garden magazine, too. Used to be free, now $1 a year. Comes 4 times a year, if it comes. That's it for today's show. Just remember that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. And don't forget that you can also show your support for the show by using the Buy Me a Coffee link over at the website or in today's show notes. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.